Hey guys, Jake Hendrickson here again with some more whitetail habitat content. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe if you can and like the video. It really does help us out. In today's video, we're going to be going over how to curate a deer trail, and these can really go by a few different names depending on who you talk to. Could be called a deer trail, could be called a deer steering tunnel, could be called a deer travel corridor. Essentially, those are all the same thing. It's really just trying to get the deer from point A to point B down a path or trail or tunnel that you created yourself. That way the deer movement throughout your property is more predictable and it makes them a lot easier to hunt. So for the most part, deer want to take the path of least resistance, and that's kind of what we're going to be giving to them here. There's already a trail on the opposite side of that blown over cherry tree, and there's all this thick mess behind me. We're going to be carving out a 10-foot wide trail from the existing trail, and we're going to bring it all the way to a food plot. Deer are pretty lazy. They definitely want to take the path of least resistance. That doesn't mean they want to walk through open hardwoods. They definitely don't want to do that because they don't feel safe. So the key is to give them the path of least resistance, but also make sure that they feel safe and secure within your trail. And so the outsides need to be kind of thick. So you're taking something that's, already thick and you're just blazing a trail right through it, or you're taking something that's open and you're knocking trees down in order to make it thick on the edges. And then there's a trail right down the middle. And this trail, you don't necessarily want it to be straight, because then they can see from one side to the other. They can just see too far. They don't want to see very far, mainly because of it stresses them out, because they know that predators can then see them from that far away. So you kind of want them to wind the trail, and that helps you as a hunter too, because during the rut, when those bucks are searching for does, that buck just can't stand right in the middle of that trail, look one way, look the other way, no does, he's moving on. He's got to search that trail. And so that's kind of how you want to set your whole property up anyways, with just, you can't see very far, just so that the buck can't bird dog your property. But these winding deer trails should be made the same way. Depending on the type of habitat you're going through, like this is going to be mainly carving through, this thick brush, and then removing all the debris from the ground, and then hinge cutting a couple trees, away from the trail. But if, let's say, you don't have anything thick like this, this is going to definitely steer the deer naturally, just because it's going to open up this thick stuff, and they're going to gravitate to that and go right through it. Now let's say you don't have anything thick like that, and you just have open hardwoods. I guess it depends on how big your trees are, but if you got like 6 to 8 inch trees, what you could easily do is find a deer trail that's being used, and if you don't like the way they're going, you can kind of give them an off ramp. So you maybe drop a tree onto the existing on the existing trail, hinge it and block it. That'll cause them to go a different way. Then what you can do is about every 5 to 10 yards, drop a tree on the left side. This is all perpendicular to the trail. So you can drop a tree on the right side, go another 10 yards, drop a tree on the left side. And what that's going to do is that's going to put these deer right down the middle, and if they try to go one way or the other, they're going to get blocked by those down trees, and so they're going to take the path of least resistance and go right down the center. And it also makes it so, because you're doing it every 10 yards, or 5 yards every other side, what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that those deer don't feel so trapped that once they're in there they can't get out. You want to make sure that predators can't just nab them when they're in there. You don't want to make it like this tight tunnel that once they're in there they're stuck and there's only forwards and backwards. You want to give them lots of ways to get in and out from the sides. A kind of an interesting way to think about it, don't even think about it like a deer trail. Think about it like you're trying to make maybe not a logging road that might be a little bit too wide, but think about just like an ATV trail. You're trying to carve an ATV trail through your property so you can drive an ATV. And when you're doing that, you don't necessarily want to have a ton of right turns. Deer don't want to take a ton of right turns, and neither do you when you're driving your ATV, right? You want a slow, gradual turn. I'm making it as wide as I need to fit an ATV or a riding lawnmower or something like that. And that way you can also keep your trail groomed a lot easier. And so I kind of wanted to just show you what it looks like before we get started, and then also what it looks like when we're finished. Once this trail's in, you can set your tree stands up on the downwind side. It's pretty easy to hunt. And if for some reason, I'm just trying to think about as much as I can off the top of my head before I start doing this. But if you guys can think of anything else that I'm perhaps missing, feel free to drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your ideas and what you guys are doing differently than me. There's no right way to do any of this stuff. I guess there's no one right way. There's plenty of right ways to do it. And so if there's anything that you guys can think of that maybe I should be doing differently, or any other ideas, please drop them below, and then I'll let you know if maybe I haven't thought about that yet, or maybe a reason why I didn't choose to go that route. So hopefully that made sense on how to make a deer trail, deer steering tunnel, or deer travel corridor, or whatever you want to call it. I'm not going to say that the process is going to be easy. It's probably going to be a little bit of hard work, but I can guarantee you, if you can do this, the hard work will pay off.